Hey, how you doing? Let's do it to it. This is a game in Monte Carlo, 1904. This is one of my most memorable games of all my years of playing. 17 moves. Let's see. 66 moves and never a dull moment. There's Marshall as white and G. Marco as black, and this is the Scotch Gambit. So this should be a pretty fun. The Scotch Gambit is a pretty fun opening. This conservative move makes it hard for white to get any attack. So this is a conservative move. Hey, how you doing? So castles. Oops, no, drat. I moved it too far up. Oops, wrong one again. It's F6. So no attack. Yep, iced tea. I like iced tea. It's actually peach iced tea. Uh-oh. I guess I made I guess that is a wrong move. Hold on. What did I? Okay, we played C3. Okay, and then D3 was played. That's the move. Okay, and then castles. This kind of makes it hard for. That's right. Some reason, sometimes I get the players confused whose turn it is. But castles was played, and then he played d6 now. This is kind of a hard move for white to deal with. It's like, good. So far, so good. So, queen takes pawn now. Knight f6. This is kind of white's black gambited a pawn, gave the pawn back for one thing. Play. Black wanted to get his development and get it going, and so he didn't want to hold on to the pawn at the cost of damaging everything. So let me see here. B4, bishop B6, and then H4. The weakening of the queenside pawns causes trouble later on for him. This is Marshall. So yeah, this is a Perrier. So let's see here. So pawn to a6. They have to play this at this point to go to get the bishop back, because Marshall's gonna eventually play a5. Doesn't have to play it right away. He plays rook to e1, which is a kind of a dubious move. With this move, which intends to attack the attack with e5, is a interesting play. What he's saying, though, that he should play is potentially, if black remains in the center, white's initiative in a line of play which soon calls for a specific sacrifice. So potentially e5 and takes, queen takes, and if knight takes, and if then castles. Do we have enough counterplay for the oddness of our position? Maybe with rook d, and then if he comes back, maybe here. Well, maybe he could actually reroute in something like this, come in like that. But he played rook d1, and that's actually a dubious move. It's not a really good move. Knight to his opponent played knight to g5 at this point, and the idea is he wants to somehow maybe create he wants to win the rook, and that kind of was the mistake that he was looking at. Nakamura actually played a move like this in one of his games. It's an interesting move setup. What this does is Marshall basically says, I'm going to try to defend my second rank along the second rank with a rook. And eventually I'm planning on potentially pushing these pawns, and I want to be able to guard maybe h2 or g2 and have, so that's kind of the idea. And also you have a rook swinger with rook a2 to e2, and then the idea of e5 has a little bit more teeth to it, because now if he takes, you take, you could potentially play rook takes, knight takes, and rook takes, and for the rook you get two pieces for the rook, and that might actually be beneficial for Whiteley if he was to get that. I mean, if he were to get that. I'm saying that potentially he could have played rook f1 and then played a little passive, and then he would just play rook g e5, knight takes, and queen to e2, knight takes bishop, and then queen takes, and bishop to e6, and black now has the two bishops versus the two the knight and bishop, so the imbalance with an extremely safe position for black. Therefore, white prepares to sacrifice material. Knight takes, knight takes, and then queen to g. And if black is to castle, then we have a infiltration in here. But he does have queen there, so it's like you have to always be on guard. He's saying that potentially here e2 is queen e2, knight takes bishop, queen takes knight, and then bishop again to e6 with a safe position for black. So he's going basically for the KO if he can get it. Knight takes bishop, and then queen takes g7. And this idea here comes back to what we talked about last night about positional play. That what you have to do is remember position that it's not about the piece. Was the bishop really doing much for us? It's debatable, but no longer can black castle. So now we can base a plan around the king not being able to castle kingside. And so this is it worth a bishop? I'm not sure, but you know, it's kind of one of those things that is at the time it looks good, and it all depends on who your opponent is, and even sometimes what their rating is. If you know your opponent is more positional and are materialistic, has a lot of material that they want to just gobble, you can actually base a forcing move sequence on the greed of your opponent. So knight takes, queen there, queen takes, pawn takes. Okay, rook f8. This is forced. And then e5. Exclam. Knight takes pawn is a complete blunder here. Oh, you have a game? Okay, we'll take a look at this real quick. Ooh. I noticed that that's a interesting one that they I've been in some tournaments that have that. I usually have some that have delays, so it's like, do we do the ones that have the ones that are delays are really an interesting setup. Let's see. Hope this input's right. No, so I gotta figure out what am I missing here. I just gotta take out move 22. I think that might be the reason. Okay, let's see. So you played the Queen's Gambit declined. Oh, the cat. Oh, you played the Cataline. This. Well, it's a. This type of Cataline is a. It's a branch of the Queen's Gambit decline setup as well, and you have to always be on guard when you fianchetto like that. That your opponent does have the ability to take, and potentially if you're thinking of trying to win it back, Queen A4, he has B5. I'm sure you've already looked into the line that goes along with that setup, and then black wants to play Queen E7 castles, and then try to reconsolidate his position, their position, because I don't know if it's I don't know if it was a lady or a gentleman that you played, so. And so that's they'd do something like this. Then you'd have to basically retreat your queen back. Bishop comes up, and you probably would want a castle, and then he'd castle. Your opponent would castle, and then you can actually you got to be careful because you can fianchetto here. You still have a pin, so it's not like they're out of the woods yet. So you could actually play knight here. You could attack there. Drop a knight in, and I think he can unwind the pawns, and he's up a pawn. Yeah. So you always have to be on your tippy toes if black's adventurous and wants to venture out into the world of grabbing material, because you never know if you're playing a pawn grabber. It all depends if when you get up to higher levels, you kind of know who your opponents are, and you can look at their prior games and get some feel for how they play, and then you can play an opening that they don't feel so sure about, like that it may not give them material. Like some players don't like the French because then they can't do like big time maneuvers with their pieces. Some players like close positions, so if you're facing somebody who plays the French often, you probably don't want to walk into the French. You'd probably want to play like a London system, or potentially maybe like a Cataline, like what you're talking about here, a branch of the Queen's Gambit decline Cataline mix. And then there's also a I think at a certain point you might be able to play a kind of mix of a Queen's Gambit Scotch game, and then if they're really materialistic and you know they love to gobble material, you may even be able to throw in a type of gambit. Like we were going over the Scotch Gambit, and you might even be able to throw that in, and your opponents sometimes just can't help gobbling up the material. So castles. Bishop e7, Queen c2, b6, c takes d, pawn takes. Okay, I was really surprised your opponent didn't take though. I could see why. They kind of didn't want this type of the Scotch Gambit's an interesting Gambit's Ginger Grandmaster Simon Williams said is he told me about that. You have to always be careful because gambits come and gambits go, but solid positions, like if you want a really solid position, you can do the Trompowsky. And he also said that he used to, when he was starting out, play the English. And he said that was like solid to the max. Queen c6, bishop a6, and then knight c3. Okay, so you're just developing. Alright, so he's sliding a rook over to attack. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Are you white or black here? I think you're white, right? Because you said you played the Catiline, and that's a white opening. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Because when you said you played the Catiline, sometimes black actually sets up his opponent to play the Catiline, and he sets up like a semi-Slav mix of a semi-Slav and French, and they'll actually do that automatically and throw them into an area they're not familiar with, like bishop b7, queen takes, and okay, so you gobbled up a pawn. Gotcha. So you queen a6. Okay. You're trying to get your queen out before it gets trapped with. Oops, I have to. For some reason, I can't enlarge this. But okay, I'm sorry it's a little bit small. I can't for some reason. There's no enlarging thing here, so just gotta bear with me on this. You don't want to get your queen trapped. Many players have fallen for that, so that actually has happened. So if you start thinking to develop and develop your bishop, you're done if you think about this here, because that wins the queen on the spot, and there's really nothing you can do. You can try playing this, then after that, and then bishop takes, and you're down a whole piece for a pawn. That's it. So you don't want to reach too much. Oops, sorry. There we go. I'm wondering if you can't actually just gobble this here. I think you might be able to. I know it's a little materialistic. If you play, he plays there. You have knight c7, queen takes, and then the bishop could actually come back and so trying to see the downside to this move. Maybe it has something to do with knight. I think knight b8 might be a problem. Thinking that might be the. Well, I think we can't really play anything at that point. Okay, so that is too overreaching. All right. Okay. You can't gobble too much there. Maybe we can. Is there any forcing moves? No, I think I just overreached too much there. So you can't really gobble that. I would love to gobble that, but that's just a trap. That's a trap. You'll lose too much. But you have to always think about those type of situations, because if you were able to get away with it, you have two queenside pass pawns, so that would be a stellar thing to look towards. I'm kind of shocked that your opponent didn't kind of play. Now I kind of see what the idea is, and they could take there, and yeah, you pick up a piece there, so you can't really do that. And this is actually under fire now. So in theory, this actually is a really strong move because now you are threatening to pick up this pawn when he plays there. Yeah, he's got us. He's got to get rid of your bishop. There's nothing to it. He has to get rid of your bishop. This is way too strong of a piece. Way too strong. It's worth Black's knows it's even worth a couple tempo loss to get rid of this piece. Yeah, this is actually an interesting setup too, because knight takes, bishop takes, then f6. Can we actually grab this here and then after takes pull a rook over? I'm wondering if we can actually do that, and then if he tries to grab that, then we actually have rook takes. I think there was a forcing move here. I think we missed this move here. I think knight b set here, and then if he takes, queen takes, and then the queen potentially can come up, and you take, and you still gotta surrender the bishops, but you actually have two passers in that scenario. So I'm thinking, did you consider kind of this knight takes when he played here? Did you consider knight takes b5 at all? And that you potentially could bring this rook over and do an attack along there? No. Okay. Because what he could do after takes is he could potentially castle, which then you are kind of in a little bit of a pickle here. So if rook takes, knight takes, queen takes, yeah. Well, if he it is a critical move, but remember, you by you moving this rook over here, you've pinned the. So if he actually tries getting a little too greedy, you actually win some material in that line. And if takes, take here, and you do have the ability to play e3 here. And if king comes up, I actually like white in this line. Surprisingly, this is actually a really strong line. It's kind of these minor pieces are a pain in the drain, but you do have the ability of bishop h3 with a pin as well. So you always got to look for forcing moves. Don't ever count out the ability for you to see if there's a better move, because what I'm learning in my forcing moves book is don't count out other moves. Don't be so fast to retreat. Don't be so fast to take, And don't be so fast. If it, you may be able to sacrifice and win more material. You got it. You just have to be open to the perspectives, different perspectives on the board. The gentleman who wrote it said that we come to chess with a type of chess bias of that this move, it looks too passive. If I push that pawn, it's counter positional and all these different things. But that computer comes to the table or to the board with a different perspective. It comes to it without a chess bias. It comes to it with saying, what is the most forcing move, and what am I going to gain from that move? And even if he gets has to exchange two minor pieces for the rook, and he can actually dominate the open file and cause a lot of chaos down the C file, they'll even exchange that. And just, you have to be always looking for those moves, and your opponents, trust me, would be shocked when you played this move. They would say to themselves, they would sit back in their seats, either one or two things. They'll be smiling from ear to ear thinking that you blundered, or two, they'll be saying, uh-oh, what just happened, and now I have to deal with two pass pawns. For real? Is that truly what I want to do? Either way, you're good, because your opponent is then filled with, if he's smiling, he's filled with kind of the very like happy things, like I'm gonna totally crush this player type of thing. Or the other one gets filled with fear, which is either, both of those are demoralizers, because one of them makes you so puffed up that you think, oh, this is a walk in the park and I don't have to worry about it. And the other one is, you're afraid to even move because you don't know what your opponent's next move's going to be. Is it going to be an exclam move? What is this move? And you have two sides of players in a kind of sacrifice like that. And sometimes it just throws them off balance. I guess the best word in the Aikido or Krav Maga is off balance. Well, in that line, you don't really have to worry about this. You can just play here. I know that seems kind of like, wait, can't he just castle? Yeah, but remember, you're not worried about material. Your whole goal now is to try to set up for an advantage. So potentially, before your opponent castles, you probably want to, now that he's castled, you probably can play this. If he plays bishop takes, now you got to be careful. So you have to always look at those type of setups, and just I guess the whole takeaway is always be on your toes with that. There we go. So you did do a type of semi-sacrifice there. let's see here. I'm thinking bishop takes here, queen takes, knight takes. If rook comes over, then you have this type of a setup. And if he comes here, then you can actually pick up a I'm thinking that this would actually be winning for you. I prefer this type of a setup. So rather you want to get away from all that. So you might want to try exchanging. He might want to try, which would be kind of a mistake there. So I think you could have actually played this here. Maybe, let's see, what could your opponent have actually done after takes? Maybe king, maybe king there. And after this, he could play here. And then how many pawns? You have 3 pawns for the piece. So then you get into our type of endgame that we like. You get into an endgame that we prefer. And you'd have 2 pass pawns, and then even if you traded these off for these, you I think would still have enough. I actually like white here. It's kind of a little odd, but I'm thinking it might slightly be, it's about equal here. I want to see if I'm right or wrong. I might be wrong. Let's see what the engine considers this. I think it's about equal, probably like a 0.3 for black. Oh, a 0.2. Wow, it doesn't like that. Well, let me see. So 1.7. A 2, okay. Yikesies. So it does not like that. Wow. Let's see, what does it think of the takes? Oh, so you did equal it. You did enter a dead drawn position then. Okay, so that was drawn. Oh, so knight takes b5. Oh, knight takes. So knight takes b5. Black castles. Then knight to a7. So winning this pawn on b5 was a key pawn. Okay. All right. That was a great game, though. Really good game. Really good game. good drink. Knight takes was actually a mistake here by black. King h1, and the next move is going to be f4. The next move is going to be pawn f4. So yeah, you know what? You can always find and improve all your positions. So best that they were saying is actually takes rook f to a rook a e2, and then bishop to e6. Okay, bishop h6. Now we're threatening to pick up a rook, so queen to e2 is forced, or e7, sorry. And then bishop e3. Oops, not bishop e3. What was I saying? That's not right. Hold on, let me get to the right move. Oh, queen takes rook pawn. Oh, queen takes h7, I mean. Castle queenside for black. Bishop takes rook. Or bishop takes f8. And rook takes f8. And surprisingly, black has a slight advantage here because his king's safe and he has more open lines onto the king. It's got more open lines, where this position is more closed for black. So king h1, he took with a knight. Bishop to e6. Rook a e2, like what we talked about. Queen e7. I don't know if that was such a wise idea. Are you serious? You're putting your queen right there? That is a little bit too wild for my likings. I don't know if I would have done that. I probably would have played queen d7. And if pawn here, then you can actually play there. I guess you do have to be careful because of this fork here. So I kind of now see why he played that. Oh man, that's just scary. That's just too scary. Not scary, I mean, because you shouldn't be afraid in moves, but I mean that's just not a wise decision. Positionally, that fails. He actually said that potentially a better move would have actually been king to d7. and then rook takes knight, rook takes e5, pawn pawn takes rook d1 check, and if he tries bishop d, you actually could take at this point. And I'm not sure if white has enough counterplay for all the stuff that he's given up. But bishop e7, no sir, I do not like that. He's gonna fall, black's gonna fall apart now. Everything's gonna just start collapsing. It appears very powerful, but white's answer takes away most of the sting. With f5, it's like, oh, exclam. And the knight actually goes back to e5, which is an exclam. Because what black can actually give the piece back. Black can actually give the piece back if he actually wanted to. And then takes. So f5. If best was actually, he said, rook and it best if, that's what he said. Rook takes, bishop to g5, queen to d6. If you're wondering why didn't he push this, because of this idea. Queen takes, when king takes, then you have rook checks, and when the king moves, the bishop just retreats out. Or potentially maybe that's too passive of a move. Maybe no, I think the move we did, because one thing I was a little concerned about was this type of an attack with the knight. So if we played rather than bishop h, we played bishop d, he has to now, I guess he doesn't have to, does he? I guess we could just come back and grab that and then play there and then go g. Yeah, I guess that could be better. Okay. But takes, and then pawn takes, bishop to bishop h6, queen takes queen, bishop takes queen, rook to f5. Despite the removal of the queens, play continues to be highly critical. So bishop takes knight, rook takes bishop, rook takes rook, pawn takes rook, and then e3. Rook to d1. What in the world? Oh, king to knight 2. Oh, that's okay. Gotcha. Rook takes pawn now. The ending is not easy for white because of his weak queenside pawns. King F7. Bishop E3. This prevents rook to D2. So rook to C2, bishop to H6, and then rook B2 check. King to E7 and rook to F3. Rook E8, because he can't exchange. If he exchanges, these two passed pawns will be too much for the king and bishop. We've already taken a look at that. Rook F1. Rook D3. Rook B6. 8. And then this is a dubious move. I should have taken the draw by repetition, but with the spirit to be of a young man for the sacrifice, he just didn't think about that. Pawn to C4. Pawn to C5. Bishop F8. Knight to C4. What was rook? Hold on. Hold on, let me go back. Ah, that's... So rook that... Oh, okay. That's not good. Okay, I think I made a mistake back here. $33. B6. Ah, there we go. Now I get what it is. Oh. Delete. He's basically in defensive mode. Realizing that if I took the pawn, the ending would certainly be lost for me. I saw only one chance to be aggressive for counterplay. Therefore, he played rook h4, pawn takes pawn, and then bang, he's going for the pawn. Let me drink. Come on. There we go. King to d8. Knight to b4. Knight takes check. He tries his last swindle of an attack here. Pawn takes pawn check. He takes. Oh, not king takes, sorry. King b8. Rook there. That's a brilliant move. King to rook 7. If you were wondering why queening is kind of a ludicrous idea, as we'll see in just a second. There's actually a check here. Check. And then you actually queen. And if he takes, you get this type of a move. And it's beautiful. And so that's why he oh no, not again. And that's why he played king a7. Rook to e8. Same. There's still that setup that potentially could happen. So c6. King to b6. Rotates rook. And this is a beautiful move too. This is like incredibly cool. You can actually do a check here. When the bishop takes, you actually play queen b2 check. When the queen takes the rook, you have knight to a4. It's beautiful. And then knight takes. And then knight takes queen, and all forced since move 46, but not now. Black's lone pawn becomes a threat though. So we're trying to get our king over there. Oops, knight. So these become a pretty sizable threat. Now black's reacting to white. Huh. Oops. Wrong spot. There we go. That's a mistake. And now we get our pawns rolling. King to d6. Oops. This is what he plays, sorry. Too late. Knight pawn turns into a queen. And he takes. And then rook d, queen to a2. And we've learned that this is potentially a we're gonna actually win this bishop here, because once we win it we can actually grab here. Surely one of the most notable fighting games on record for him. Okay, so we'll put this here. We'll erase this. Okay, we'll I'll put it on a game for you to watch for just a second. I'll be right back. Actually, I'll just pull up another board. Just give me a sec. I can't believe this. My computer's so slow. There we go. Right now. There we go. I'll be right back. let's do a couple puzzles now. Oh, we'll finish this one up here. It's only like 7 seconds. Okay, let's we'll do 6 puzzles, then we'll do your puzzle, your 2 puzzles, and then we'll do some end game, because I don't know if we'll have enough time for 12 tonight, but I know we can do 6, and then we'll have time for all of our activities. That was a little bit longer of a game, so see, 2, 2, 1, 4, 2, 3. Oops, I almost forgot the king. Okay, 2, 2, 1, 4, 2, 3, 4, and 3. Okay. White to mate in 2. White to mate in 2. Oops. I don't know how that got put on there. Yikes. White to mate in 2. I'll give you 20 20 more seconds, and then we'll solve it. Okay. Knight to g5 check. H takes g5, and then rook to h3 mate. Let's try to see if there's any other mating setups that we could do. I don't think so. So we'll get on to our next one. Can you actually hear me? I just want to make sure you can actually hear me, and it's not to what in the world? Hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, let's a vacuum. Can you hear me though? Can you hear me? Huh. I don't know why. It says that there's actually an error. There's an the video download has canceled. Please try again. One second. I need to. I'm not sure what this actually means. Well. Oh, you can hear us very. Okay, good. Okay. It was an error. It was like really odd. It said I looked at this my dashboard and it said I was disconnected. There was an error. I was like, ugh. But you know what? It's all working now. If you can hear me loud and clear, then everything's good to go again. Okay, let's do this here. All right. Okay, white to move now. White to move, mate 2. This is from Father Pogar's book, Chess 5,334 Puzzles, Combinations, and Games. That's his book. Let's see here. Can you see the screen though? Yeah. Let's see here. Okay. Rook takes h7, check. King takes, and then queen to h5 is mate. So we'll do another one. Yep, you're right. You got it right. Good job. There we go. Let's get these pawns on the board. Okay. 3, 2, 5, 2, 3, 3, 1, and 3. Alright, operation go. Yeah. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, so we're white to move and mate again. Okay. Oh, I'm not surprised. But you know what? We're going to have fun anyways because we love to play chess. Wow. Oh, they're at 19 seconds. Wow. Oh boy. Okay, white to mate 2. This should be a walk in the park. Hey, how you doing? This is mate 2 for white. No, I already spotted it. I'm waiting for I want you guys to have a chance at it. I know what the move is, so I spotted it already, but I want you to give a shot, and then you could type in the notation. This is a for you guys to have a chance to participate in the stream. Yeah, there we go. That's it. Yep, there you go. There's your mate. Nice job. Clear, and we're ready to rock and roll. There. Wow. A lot of pieces are clumped together right there. They're all in one big clump. So let's see here. Okay, let's do it to it. White to move. There you go. Kaboom. Wow. There's no shielding for black. This is not a good thing, but remember, if we have mate, it doesn't matter about the king's safety as long as it's our turn and we got mate. 3, 3, 3, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. Okay. There we go. Nice job. One more, and then we'll start into our end game. Ooh, I don't know if we want to stop on this one. Well, we might be able to do one more after this. So let's do that. Your turn to move. What are we going to do? It's up to you, my chest cruncher friends. What's the move? There we go. We'll do one more. One more. Good job. And then we'll start. Alright, our end game. Okay, dokie. Two rooks, boom boom. Black goes there. Here, here, here. Bishop. Where's what? Black's rook. Okay, so 1, 4, 1, 2, or 3. 1, 3, and then 4. Let's do it. Alrighty. Then we'll get started on. I'll get the endgame book ready. Excuse me. White to mate in 2. Yep, there you go. Okay, onward and upward. Let's get on to our end game now. Okay. Jeremy Silman faced a computer in Los Angeles, 1989. And this, I'll set up the board, and we'll talk about it, and we'll go over it. Well, okay, let me see. Alright. At the time, the computer hadn't quite made their marks at the high levels of tournament chess. This event was historical, and the computer's name is this. I'll put it in for you. MAPHIS. Yep, there we go. That's the computer's name. So I don't really know how to pronounce it. It was a computer term. This event, yeah, was historical for that computer. Very well against several strong. It competed very well against several strong players. And Deep Thought was actually dragged down by Ben Larson and myself. So he actually beat Deep Thought. Larson didn't take the machine seriously while I was introduced to the computer's incredible defensive skills. In the final round, I outplayed it actually and acquired a position that would have given me an excellent winning chance against any human, and then ran into a non-human defense wall while in time pressure. So he's facing the computer. Though my loss to Deep Thought was not big and costly, I managed to uphold the basically human integrity and intelligence against the computer. And the game was long and he said very tiresome. I managed to win a pawn and begin the long cat and mouse process of taking my computer and my moves and making them very long. Basically, that's what he's saying. And he tried to do bolts of attack in the end game. And so this is the game, the starting position where he's black here and his opponent is white, and it's black to move. So I'll make it into a study. Okay. What do you think the move for black would be here? Yeah, that would be an interesting type of move for sure. But remember that if we did play knight h3, king king to e1, and I think he holds. I think he's still holdable at this point. Can you find anything that's a little bit better than that? Can you find anything better than that? So not that it's not a good move. Can you find a better move? Oh, yeah. Oh, wait. No. Yeah, there's that. Yeah, it's not the knight move. Okay, good. Yeah, so just think of a better move, an even better move than knight to h3. I'll give that an interesting mark. Sorry, right there. I'll give that. Oh, why isn't there? I'll give that an interesting mark because I do like that, but it's an interesting move. And if you thought that move, you were right. If you thought that bishop a4 was the move, you were 100% spot on. It was here that I discovered the glitch in the machine. That's kind of a iRobot thing. The glitch in the machine. An experienced human would understand the flexibility of a knight in such a position. but the machine was programmed to believe in the superiority of the bishop over the knight. Thus, it allowed me to take on b3 and enter a winning knight and bishop endgame. So black played a dubious move here, and this was actually a losing move. So we got to promote this to the main line. Okay, and so now with the understanding of what we just read, what do you think the move for black is? It's an exclam. This move is an exclam move for black. It's in your hands, my chess cruncher friends. What would you play for black? It's an exclam move. You got it right. Bishop takes b3 exclam. Excellent move. Excellent job. Excellent job for spotting that. I wasn't going to let it change its mind. So bishop takes bishop now. And then king to e5. Bishop a2, a4. And then knight to f7 with the idea of trying to come in, maybe via something like this and go in there. The only fly in the ointment, that's what he says. And black's vulnerable pawn on g4. Black's vulnerable pawn on g4, despite the bishop going basically to d7. Oh, you don't understand? Well, this is more of a closed position here. This is a closed position, and so black actually has a superior setup than his opponent does. And the whole basis of the idea is to go knight to f7 and get his knight to e4 and protect his weak backwards pawn. Yeah, they're on the same color as the bishop, but remember though, who has the more advanced pawns and who is more active? Black's more active, and black has a better ability to actually create a passed pawn. And when he starts creating passed pawns, these pawns will start rolling like a tidal wave would. They'll start being like, you know how when if you're the HQ on a football team and your line breaks and then the other line starts coming charging at you, that's kind of what will start happening to this king here. So it's beneficial for black to actually go into a knight versus bishop. I understand what you're saying. Principle wise, it doesn't make a lot of sense principle wise that the pawns are on the same color, but remember, it's closed. Black's pawns are more advanced, and as we found from our studies with the knight, that the knight can jump on any color of the board, any color of the squares. And we also found out that knights are more superior. Yeah, knights are more superior than bishops when pawns are on one side of the board. So I don't think Jeremy Silman would have traded if pawns were like this. If there were pawns like this, he probably wouldn't have traded. But because the pawn chain is so compact, and this knight could easily defend it with e5, this weak g4 pawn, he decided to go into this endgame where he has a more active king versus a more passive bishop, because his bishop really doesn't have a lot of play. Yeah, I know that's kind of a mouthful right there of an example, but I hope it helped out. Okay, finally went with the bishop. Okay, d5 also threatens to leap into d3, but we're not worried about that. And c4. So at the time, bishop b3 was played, and I think that was a slight mistake on the engine's part. Bishop c2. See, this idea, if you're wondering why he moved his bishop here, if the pawn was pushed here, the bishop would have grabbed. So this is actually a blunder. That would be actually a blunder. So he can't push d4 if you're wondering about that. Now that the knight made it to e5, it protects the weak backward g4 pawn, and now this could potentially be playable. We do got to be careful now, though, that we really can't play this right at this moment, because if we did, the bishop could actually grab the pawn. So bishop c2, knight c4. Bishop a4, d4. Now we got our pawn a rolling. Bishop c2, and then king d5. Now we've got protection here. King d5, bishop b3, king c5, bishop c2. D takes E, F takes, and knight takes the pawn, bishop takes E4, and king to D4. Now we have a passed pawn that is going to neutralize a lot of the opponent's threats. So king to our bishop G6. And knight to c4. King f2 to try to prevent any king activity. Knight d2. Bishop f5. Trying to take advantage of the weak pawn. Knight e4. Check. Nothing is safe from the mighty knight. Now it chases the king off of f2 and threatens to play f2 with the pawn. Training sights on f1. Training sights on f1. Breaking any effort of white trying to stop the pawn from turning into a queen. This highlights the knight's main advantage over the bishop. It can control any color, and thus potentially place pressure on any square on the board. Oops, I have to. Where's the king? What in the world? Where's? I don't. This is weird. I'm missing a move. That is peculiar. Oh, I got it. Well, it takes. Okay, it takes the knight. I was trying to think that it was going to take here. Gotcha. King takes. Okay. It's sad, but it had to actually play that. King f1. king e3, king a1, king f2, check, king f1, king d3, king takes, king d2, king f1, king f, king e3, and the flex of, and it's basically all over, because if he tries to come to e1, then the pawn drops off the board, and we have the opposition again. If he comes here, we now play e2, and then if he plays king h2 to hold, we play king f2, and then if he goes h1, we take, and we remember now that there's no way for him to stop the progress of the pawn from promoting. So I think probably we'll stop at this, and there's a whole nother bunch of there's a bigger game next after this one, so we'll call it here. So do you have any questions on the knight maneuver that we just talked about? Yes, you do. Okay, what's the question? Oh, okay. Gotcha. Perfect. I wanted to thank you all for logging on, and thank you, Chess 360, for your chess game that we were able to go over. Great job on the play. I hope I was helpful on helping you to look at all options for like forcing moves, and never come to chess with a chess bias on a certain move that you have to capture all the time. So just always be on the lookout for forcing moves like the grandmasters do. And what we have to remember is that what we become, what we think about. So if you think positive thoughts and you think on the Lord Jesus, then all things are possible. And so what we have to remember is, like what Bruce Lee said, he didn't fear the person who practiced 10,000 individual kicks. He feared the person who practiced one kick 10,000 times. So if we practice and do our end games, and then we do our puzzles and a Frank J. Marshall chess game, then we'll be able to basically push onward and improve and be like what Bruce Lee said. And he also said that the human potential of the mind that the Lord's given us is amazing. It does have plateaus sometimes when you feel like, why can't I see this move, or why is this happening? First of all, you have to be patient and forgive yourself and be patient with yourself, because remember, when you first start out in a gym lifting weights, it takes a while for muscle build to happen. Same thing with our brain. Our brain's a muscle that has to, over time, get stronger. So don't get frustrated if sometimes you don't see progress right away. But he says, though, when you do see the progress, apply it. He says, knowing is not enough, you must apply. So to have the information on board is not enough. You need to apply it over the board. And also, if you play online as well. And you have to be willing to put the effort in, and sometimes every once in a while, like what you say, some of the end games give you headaches. Even have a headache every once in a while, so that you'll keep improving. Your brain's getting pushed to the limit. But when you sit down over the board, remember to always bring your Grandmaster glasses with you, so that when you put them on, you can see the board and all the pieces where they belong and where they should be. And remember to treasure your victories and learn from your losses. So that's the hardest thing to do, is to learn from your losses, because you have to put aside your ego. Like, you have to put aside that it's considered a loss. I could say when I lost for a little bit, I always say that it's a great way of learning. It's not fun to go over your losses, but you have to find out what was the tide turner that caused the loss, and then you fix that, and you're able to improve. And then you have to treasure victories, learn from your losses. You remember that mistakes do not define you; it's how you handle the mistakes. So that when you don't think of the loss as you. So, like, let's say you did lose the first round. We're just gonna hypothetically say that. Don't let it affect all 6 or 7 more rounds that you have. Just say, you know what? I learned something, and now a new game. Like Fabi says, every game is a new game when he sits down and plays. They ask how can he basically go from one game and play good all the time. He says, I don't think of the prior game. I'm going to take that game home and study it later. But I'm playing a whole nother board, which is a whole nother chance at winning. And so don't bring in you're upset because you lost. Just remember that game you can learn from, but now do your best on the game to come. And let me see. And like what we always say, always, if you fall down, knuckle down and get right back up, and the Lord will be there to comfort you through these times too. So you have to keep that always in the forefront. And you know what? I always think of the Rusty telling the little engine, if you think you can, you will. If you think you can't, you won't. Either way, you're right. And if you are a talented chess player, do your due diligence and work, because hard-working players, there was a phrase that I remembered that said this: talented players will they don't work hard, because what happens is it comes so easy, and hard players that do work hard will defeat the talented players. Like Alekhine wasn't as they say, a natural, but he outworked all of his opponents, and he held the title for a long time. So hard work will pay off if you put it in, especially if you're talented. It'll be like putting it into nitro, and then put the pedal to the metal with learning. So just keep that in mind, and it's so worth it to go for the title. Never settle for second place, always go for first, but learn along the way and always have fun. And what do we usually say when we're studying? Most are playing or doing other stuff. What do? We hang up our coat, we hang up our hat, we sit down and study when most won't. A chess cruncher does, and that makes all the difference. It really does. And as Wesley So says, to the Lord Jesus, and as I say, God bless, and I'll see you next time on Chess Cruncher TV. Have a blessed morning, afternoon, and evening. And you know what? Remember, the Lord's in control. If the Lord's with you, who can stand against you? And remember this, from Hannibal Smith: we love it when a plan comes together. And the plan is always predict what your opponent's going to do, plan for it, and implement your plan right alongside with that on the chessboard. Great job. Go Team Chess Cruncher. Hoorah. Be blessed. And I'll see you tomorrow. And we'll do some more endgame. Bye-bye.